Hello, my name is Father Joe Fowler, and I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you to our diocesan tribunal. That word alone is scary. It can terrify people. When I first heard that term tribunal, I pictured a big dais and all these priestly judges pointing down with even the white judicial wigs. Well, we've got no wigs here, and our tribunal is hopefully as welcoming as can be. The whole point of this video is to help you as you consider whether or not you need to seek an annulment to become more familiar with our office and comfortable working with the people in our office at the tribunal. As a marriage tribunal, our tribunal in the Diocese of Pensacola-Tallahassee deals with marriage annulments. People often confuse divorce and annulment. These aren't the same thing. A divorce is the dissolution or the breaking of a marriage bond that exists, whereas an annulment is a declaration that the bond never existed in the first place. People can become angry also with the Catholic Church for intruding in on their personal lives through the inquiries of the tribunal, but all that we do at the tribunal is meant to safeguard and uphold the dignity of what Jesus has taught us in the Gospels. In these cases, in particular, we're dealing with what Jesus teaches about marriage and family life. In all three of the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, the Gospel writers talk about marriage and divorce. They talk about lawful marriage and unlawful marriage. And those teachings that Jesus brings to us through the Gospels are upheld by the tribunal, protected by the tribunal, safeguarded by the tribunal.
Mark 10, verse 11, he said to them, "Whoever divorces his wife and marries another commits adultery against her." Luke 16, verse 18, everyone who divorces his wife and marries another commits adultery, and the one who marries a woman divorced from her husband commits adultery. Matthew 5, verse 32, but I say to you, whoever divorces his wife, unless the marriage is unlawful, causes her to commit adultery, and whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery.
Jesus makes reference to an unlawful marriage in the Gospel, and that being an exception to the rule. All a declaration of nullity is for a marriage is a declaration that there was some necessary and essential piece, some necessary and essential element to marriage that was missing, and precisely at the time of the exchange of vows, the exchange of consent. Whether you're considering becoming Catholic or have been Catholic all your life, approaching the annulment process can be scary and intimidating. The whole point of this video is to try to lessen that a little bit so you'll be more comfortable approaching this process if you need to. To do that, you've seen parts of the office already, parts of the tribunal. Let me introduce you to the staff of the tribunal. My name, as I've already said, is Father Joe Fowler. I'm what's called the judicial vicar. That's just a churchy term, and we have a lot of those churchy terms in the tribunal. It's a churchy term that just means that I am the one responsible for making the decisions in the name of the bishop with regard to all these matters. I run the tribunal. We also have in our office Kathy Methvin. She is our official notary for the tribunal, and she's probably the person you'll interact with the most. When you call the tribunal, as I hope you will if you need to, Kathy's the one you'll speak to first. She keeps the process moving and keeps all of us in line. Father Eugene Casserly is what's called the defender of the bond. That's another churchy term in the tribunal. But if you think of any annulment process in terms of an American courtroom, the case is against the marriage bond itself. The marriage bond is the defendant. And Father Casserly is like the defense attorney for the marriage bond. And finally, we have Father Stephen Olson, who has just recently completed his degree in canon law and is new to us in the tribunal, and he'll be serving as a judge in the coming months. All of us at the tribunal are eager and willing and desirous of helping you any point along the process that you might need it. The whole reason we're here is to help serve you as you approach this process. Regardless of our role, we all recognize what a difficult process this can be. If you really think about it, it's not as difficult as filling out your annual tax return. Sometimes, and depending upon the year, the tax return can even be more emotional than the annulment process. When it comes down to it, there are really three essential things that happen in terms of what you have to do to petition for an annulment. One, you fill out a long form. I'm not going to lie, it's a long form. Okay, but I filled out longer forms visiting the doctor. You can work it out with your priest or anybody that the RCA coordinator can help you through that form if need be, but it's pretty self-explanatory and it's not asking too many invasive questions. It's mostly about your address, demographics, where you're from, and the history with your former spouse. The second part of the process that you'll complete is writing a description of your relationship with your former spouse. And we have a guideline, a guide that you can download off of the internet to kind of guide you through what to say and what information we need for that relationship and for that description. For some of you, that may be all that's needed. Others, if we need further information or need clarification on some of the things that you've written, it can be helpful for us to call you in for an interview where you simply come to our tribunal offices and you'll be with myself and Kathy, Father Casserly, and possibly Father Olson to answer some questions to fill in some gaps in the information you provided. That's really all there is to it. The rest is waiting. Because once you've submitted your petition for nullity, there's a lot that happens on our end to investigate whether or not there was, in fact, some essential and necessary element missing at the time of the vows and consent of your marriage. So if you've been married and divorced before, whether you're Catholic, whether you've always been Catholic, whether you've never been Catholic, if you've ever been married or divorced before, you need to consider whether or not you need an annulment. Your priest, your RCIA coordinator can help you make that decision and discern whether or not that's necessary. The marriage, it doesn't matter if it was in a church, at the Justice of the Peace, if you went to Las Vegas and got married by Elvis or Wayne Newton, none of that matters. You need to consider whether or not an annulment is necessary. And in doing that, you can speak with your priest or RCIA coordinator. There's no need for shame or embarrassment in this process. None of us is making moral judgments about your life. None of us is calling into question decisions that you have made. But just trying to establish through the process of the tribunal whether or not the marriage is valid or not, whether a declaration of nullity can be granted. People often talk about, just making the decision to grant a declaration of nullity. Just give me the annulment. But this isn't a personal or subjective decision that's being made. It's not dependent upon your status with the church now, or whether you're a faithful Catholic now, or whether you give to the church, or anything like that. It's about whether or not there was some essential and necessary element missing that needed to be there at the time of the wedding. This can be a difficult process, as I've said before. We all know that at the tribunal, and we're eager to help you. Let us help you. Call the tribunal, email us. You can ask us any questions you might have, even before you submit the petition. We can help you through the petition process, and if you have questions about the form itself or anything that the form says or anything that's asked about in the description that you write, we're happy and eager to help you through the process. Being divorced does not mean that you're excommunicated or cut off from the church. And all of us at the tribunal look at these declarations of nullity as open doorways into a deeper participation in the life of the church. We want that for anyone who desires it in their life. I hope that you can see from our little video today how eager we are to help you. All of us here want anyone who wants a deeper participation in the life of the church to be able to do just that. From all of us at the tribunal, may God bless you.